In late 290 PCU, the unrest and anti-assembly sentiment that had been steadily growing in the southeastern frontier for decades had reached its apex. Stoked by the ever more fierce calls to action of Kaito Hakim and his red bannerets, and by the unreliable support of the Centrum Assembly against the famine, the geopolitical situation in the southeast of Tantalus had become a veritable powder keg, and it would take only the smallest spark to set it off, though this reality was far from understood by the Assembly Parliament. The inevitable spark finally came on the 176th of Solstice 290 PCU. The heavy packet schooner Primrose, one of countless regular supply ships carrying humanitarian aid from the Assembly core systems to the famine-stricken frontier, passed leisurely into the Mayala's Rest system 8 days behind schedule, having adopted a somewhat lackadaisical course from Centrum that took numerous extensive detours as a result of Captain Hamish Kettrick's extreme caution to avoid potential pirate encounters. This caution, though perhaps hyperbolic, was not totally unwarranted, as another supply ship en route to Mayala's Rest had fallen victim to pirates in the Atamara crossroads not 4 days earlier. Resultantly, the Primrose was the first packet ship to reach the Mayala's Rest system in 43 days, and her supplies had been desperately needed far sooner. As the ship burned towards the gravity well of Mayala's Rest, they were intercepted and ordered to heave to by the Florencia-class outrider Ramona, and a formation of accompanying Bakshi-type longboats, all part of the improvised militia that policed the system in the absence of proper support by the Defense Ministry. The interaction that followed is far from clearly understood by historians, and various contradictory accounts of the exchange have been cited. One thing that seems clear is that the Ramona's captain was incensed by the Primrose's delay, and may in fact have suffered a recent bereavement inflicted by the famine for which they held Captain Kettrick responsible. Many accounts suggest that Kettrick responded flippantly, or did not fully grasp the desperate situation on the planet below, or indeed the true temperament of the militia captain he was dealing with. What followed happened swiftly and unclearly, and though the Primrose was indeed lightly armed for self-defense, it remains unknown who fired the first shot. All that can be said for certain is that 45 minutes later the Primrose had been disabled, boarded, and her entire crew killed. Crucially, the first report of the incident was sent by the Ramona's captain not to his superiors in the militia liaison office at the Centran Government House on Mayala's Rest, but to Kaito Hakim. Understanding the sequence of events that had now been set in motion, and perhaps having predicted them for some time, Hakim acted quickly. Gathering his supporters, he led a violent attack on the Centran Government House, the details of which he broadcasted to his cultivated contacts in Teldrin and Atamara, and within the Nightbridge penal colony on Dalstaff, calling for them to join in a mass revolt across the southeastern frontier. It seems now that these events must surely have been planned in at least some amount of detail far in advance, and the Primrose Incident simply provided Hakim with the moment he had been waiting for. By the time word had reached the Assembly Parliament of the fate of the Primrose and the Government House massacre 3 days later, the southeastern frontier had already slipped from their grasp entirely. Hakim had arranged transport to Teldrin, and in a cluster-wide broadcast from the Spire city of Hatoba, he stood alongside Henrik de Barn, Grand Selectman of Teldrin, and Tacito Lemaire, the newly self-styled Free Warden of Dalstaff, and together they declared the secession of the newly formed Frontier Union. Absent from the meeting was the fourth member of the new Union Council, Arcelia Abascal, the Pirate Queen of Atamara, as she was already under a high-G burn toward the Atamara Axios Gate at the head of a unified pirate fleet. Before the day was over, she would begin in earnest what would soon be known as the Frontier War. Thank you for watching. You can get the Sojourn through various distributors, all of which are accessible through www.thesojournaudiodrama.com. You can also get the series through Patreon, where you'll be able to access various bonus features, including our visual dictionary, Guinevere cross-sections, and anthology shorts. Remember to join us on Discord and get regular updates on all upcoming Sojourn releases. All the related links can be found below this video. Fair winds.